This is going to be part 2 of an AR rifle build. I'll be picking up with the pistol grip and building back to where the buffer tube and everything is. As an infantryman in April of 2001, I ended up going to the armor school so that I could work on our unit's weapons and everything like that. And since then, I've been a government contractor that works on a foreign military sales contract that works regularly on Colt M4s and C8s. I was also the honor grad of the armor course that I went through, so I have a little bit of experience working with it as an infantryman, as a scout, in combat, and regularly through my job doing work and stuff for the government.
Try to get some RPGs.
All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting the safety in. The safety selector is also going to be part of the trigger housing and everything, so you want to make sure you have your plunger pin. This is going to be the one that has like an edge on it and a tip. It only goes one way. The tip of this right here is going to be what rides inside the groove and locks into the pinpoints here. And then the spring part right here is going to go inside your grip. And then obviously you have your grip screw that's going to go under here, and we'll go through all that. But first part of it you got to do is cock the hammer back. You'll see in here the back of the trigger area. When you cock it back, that little part right there drops down, and then you're basically able to put your safety in. And once that's put in, you're ready to move on to the next part. All right, and with your safety in, have it on safe so you don't accidentally have the hammer go flying forward. You can also have it forward and everything and leave it on fire, but I just like doing it this way. All right, if we flip it over, this pin is going to go inside the hole right here. And it's just going to sit there, and that part right there is good. This spring part right here, it's usually easier to put it into the grip itself, but that's where it's going to end up going. What I like to do is get this started. Let me make sure I have the right piece for this right here, and I'll show you how the way I do it. All right, for my needs, it's going to be a 3/16. Some of these are going to be flat tips. They can be different sizes and everything, but your grip screw is basically going to be like that. You have a washer that goes on it that'll help lock it into place. And what I like to do is kind of turn it upside down a bit, put it on the screw itself, and then kind of guide it through. And then when it comes out on the other side, it's kind of locked in place there, and you can kind of hold it there. For this part, I guess I'll turn it on the side, hopefully, so you can see a little bit better. The spring's going to go in here. The spring has to go in where that detent is. You don't want it to get kinked or pinched or anything like that, so it's kind of important on how you do it in this area right here to get it kind of lined up, pushed on, and then tightened and everything. But once you kind of get it to where it's properly lined up and it's not pinched or kinked, that's the big thing you want to make sure of. Then you're basically just tightening this down and making it snug. Because it's steel going into aluminum, once I get it snug, I like to back it off and then retighten it a bit, and it kind of seasons and helps get a good grip on the aluminum to metal for the snugness of it. A lot of times, if you don't have this snug and on right, it can work loose, and people will end up losing the detent pin or having an issue with the spring getting kinked or something like that, and it'll get loose. So one of the main things to check is that your grip's on there good. Once it's on there good, remember you don't want to damage the front end part, but you can rotate it, make sure it works. Once you're sure that it works, you're good on that part right there. One of the biggest problems I've seen with these AR-15s and military rifles is people try to put these on at an angle, and as they tighten them down, it can slip out and the spring can get kinked or something like that. So to me, it's easier just to line it up like I showed you earlier. Once you get it lined up, push it all the way down to where it kind of fits and you can see that everything's lined up well. And when you get it pressed down and hold it, then tighten it where everything's already lined up, versus some people start way back here tightening it, and the things will crimp or mess up and the angles will get all off. So it's easier just to line it up, make sure everything's in place, push it on, and then tighten it. All right, now we're getting down to the kind of final stages. We're still gonna have more after this, but you want to make sure you have your buffer retaining spring, the buffer retainer, your end cap, your castle nut, and then you're also going to be doing your rear takedown pin along with the spring and the detent. So all this stuff's going to kind of go together and get set up. First thing you want to do is take your castle nut. This part right here is the part that you tighten down on. These little parts are the part that gets staked if you want to stake it. So I usually put a little grease and stuff on this. I'm not a fan of Loctite, but you can get these threads started and basically go all the way back with it, get everything lubed. And then we're going to end up throwing on this piece right here. There's a D10 on this side right here that's indented. The indented piece is going to end up matching up with this. So you're going to have the dimple in the back, and the hole that's right here is where we're going to end up putting the spring and the detent that goes in here to hold the rear pin in. So the rear pin's going to go in here, and going to kind of do it all together to get it lined up right, and then adding this to it, but we'll go over that here in a moment. All right, there's a number of different ways you can do this, but I like to start by making sure the castle nut's all the way to the back with the latching plate on there, and then just tighten it up a little bit to get it started. Then we have to take the plunger retaining pin and spring, and that's going to go down inside the hole here. And what you're going to need is some type of punch or something to depress and push this down. Everything's magnetized. But this right here, you're going to need to push down as you tighten it, and the little lip inside here is going to come and end up covering it up. So as it goes in, you want to make sure that you get to a point where it's going to latch. Right here, it's getting pretty close, so probably one more turn to get this to kind of lock into place where we're at. And right about there is going to be where we need to be with it. Now, to get the pin and spring in, we can take the takedown out and initially just put it in here. Going to line it up so that the pin that goes in here is going to drop in right. And what we do is back it off a hair, and it's going to give us access to the hole here. So we can drop the pin in first. Then we take the spring, push it in, make sure that we get it to where it's about right, where it's going to line up in the grooves that we want. We know it's in there all the way. And then what we can do is we can push in on this right here, rotate it back to where it needs to be. Make sure you don't kink this spring, same as with the trigger spring and everything. And you can push it forward into the latch where it needs to go. Once you have it there, and we know that this is lined up where it needs to be, we can tighten down this castle nut. All right, with the castle nut tightened down on here, make sure we have enough clearance here that this right here pops up and down. Make sure our spring wasn't kinked or anything. And our takedown pin for the rear slides pretty smoothly overall. It just needs to be worked in and everything, but everything's lined up on it, and we're almost done with this. Another way you can do it is put your pin in, drop the detent, have your spring in there, drop in the plunger retainer, and then just start threading it on to get it to where you need to be. You're going to end up hitting this a little bit, but you can keep doing it. Then here we're basically just rotating it, and you'll see the pins kind of flopped over a little bit. You can take your screwdriver or a small razor blade or something like that, and make sure you just line it up that way if there's a different way that you want to do it. Again, you're going to push it flush, tighten the castle nut, and make sure everything there is together. If you are going to end up torquing down your castle nut, it's going to go to about 40 foot-pounds. So when you end up doing it, you want to make sure that you're at a 90-degree angle doing the torque. You don't want to be like 180 degrees or on the side doing it. So off at an angle, and that'll give you your torque rating and everything. There can be a slight difference between doing it wet or dry. I like to lube everything. Most of the stuff on here has been lubricated and everything. All right, the next step is basically kind of the final step. I'll explain that here in a moment. But we're going to put the buffer spring and buffer in. You got to push down a little latch sometimes, depending on how it's set up. And basically, the buffer's going to sit on the detent and be in there. All right, hopefully I showed you a few different ways that you can put an AR lower together. You may be wondering, hey, where's the buttstock on it and everything? Well, one of the nice things about building an AR lower is you can build them as a pistol. And with the ATF rules the way they are, you can convert a pistol to a rifle and back to a pistol. But if you have a rifle, you cannot convert it to a pistol. So if you bought yourself a rifle, an AR, or something like that, and it was registered as such, you're locked into it. If you buy yourself a lower receiver and build it up, build it as a pistol. Then you can convert it back and forth as you want and everything. Just a little tip and everything. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's probably highly edited because I want to cut it down for time and everything. But do me a favor, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Cav Cop out.